Dinner etiquette. Hello all and welcome to this video on dinner etiquette. When you are invited to dine with someone and you want to make an excellent impression, especially a professional impression. Let's say you are in a job search and are invited to an interview, and that interview is going to include lunch or dinner. This is a perfect opportunity for you to learn basics of how to make a good first impression when you are dining with someone.
Now, when you first arrive at a restaurant, let your host indicate to you where you should sit and when you should sit. That person should be the one that really starts the process of being seated, taking the napkin, putting them in the laps, and starting the conversation. What you can do is think of this: nothing goes on the table. Not your cell phone, which by the way you should leave in the car or somewhere where it's not even with you. You shouldn't put a notebook, keys, glasses, or anything on the table. If you bring baggage, like a portfolio with resumes, all of those items should go under the table. So when your host sits and indicates where you can sit, that's a perfect time to take your seat, sitting up straight comfortably in the chair, feet flat on the floor. You should be relaxed, but not slouchy. These things don't go on the table. However, forearms are very acceptable in resting against the edge of the table. Let's talk about this piece of cloth called a napkin. As soon as your host takes the napkin, you can do the same. And the proper way to place a napkin is wherever it is. If it's on the plate, or it could be very nicely folded in a glass, take the cloth, open it up, find the fold, and that's what you should put into your lap very unobtrusively, with the fold nearest your tummy button. When you use a napkin, you use it to dab the corners of your mouth, replacing it in your lap. If you need to excuse yourself while you're dining, place your napkin on the seat of your chair. That indicates to waitstaff that you are returning. If your napkin falls on the floor, let's not dive after it. Indicate to the waitstaff that you need a clean napkin and you will have one very quickly. And that also goes for anything else, any utensils or anything that falls on the floor from the table. Indicate to the waitstaff that you need new utensils and they'll be happy to bring that to you. You have a dinner plate, you've got a bread plate, and you have some utensils. Let's look at the utensils. You've got a dinner fork, a salad fork, which is smaller than the dinner fork. You have your dinner knife, a teaspoon, and a spoon with a round bowl. This, therefore, is going to be a soup spoon. When you eat from the outside in. So when you start eating, you can see that the smaller fork, the salad fork, you can assume then that you will be having salad. Because you have a soup spoon to the outside on your right, you can then also assume that soup will be served. You've got a utensil at the head of your plate, a small fork. That utensil is going to be used for dessert. You've got your drink glass above your knife, your bread plate above your forks. One easy way to try to remember which is which is if you do this with your fingers. This is a B for bread. This is a D for drinks. And when you're at a table, you don't necessarily have to do it here, but you can do it down under the table. So then you know this is my bread plate, these are my drink glasses. When you're going to be using utensils, most of us do use our utensils American style. And what I'd like to do is show you how you can utilize a dinner knife and a dinner fork, especially when you're going to be cutting something. The proper way to cut something is to hold your knife across the palm of your hand with your index finger at this bridge of the blade and the knife handle. With your dinner fork, again across the palm of your hand with your pointer finger at this little bridge of the fork. You cut something Lay your knife on your plate, blade toward you. Exchange your fork into your other hand and proceed to eat. Your knife should stay on the plate. Any utensil, including forks or spoons, that you use while you're eating should also stay on your plate. If you use a utensil, it then does not go back to the tablecloth. Okay. At the end of the meal, we are served dessert, which is the fork that was ahead of the dinner plate. A word about drinks. When you are in a job search, when you are trying to make a good first impression, I think it's very important that you avoid alcohol-type drinks. You can certainly stay with iced tea, club soda with lime, any kind of soda, and even water with a slice of lemon. Very, very appropriate when you are trying to make a good first impression.
Some other things that you might want to remember. If you are at a restaurant and you are not familiar with that restaurant, it's very appropriate to ask the host to recommend something for you. Another check. Don't order something you have never eaten before. So stay with what's familiar to you.
The do's and don'ts for business dinners would be as follows. Arrive on time, show respect, and dress appropriately. It's still a business dinner. Make sure that no business is discussed until after the menus have been received, the orders have been taken, and the menus have disappeared and the order is placed. Then casual business could be discussed, but keep in mind the dynamics of the people there. Does everyone have privy to the knowledge that you do, or is some of it confidential? If it's a mixed group, say for example business and some spouses, business should be kept to a minimum and quite light. Watch your open-ended questions so that you're not too invasive, and keep in mind the confidentiality, so perhaps the voices would not be too loud. When you're interacting with others, you want to pace your questions based on when that person does not have a mouthful of food. So you might ask someone and then wait for their answer. Some of the things I see so frequently is gentlemen at the table will tuck their napkin into their shirt collar, an absolute no-no. I've also seen men flip their ties over their shoulder or tuck them into their shirt, and again, that is not appropriate as well. If someone comes to the table just a few minutes later, such as a woman, the gentlemen no longer need to stand, and they certainly don't need to reach across the table to shake, but they would just raise themselves slightly, nod, and acknowledge the person.
Don't forget your thank yous. It's so important to verbally thank your host. Also, do it in writing, and handwritten small thank you card can be very meaningful. It shows your level of self-confidence and that you are aware of manners in a professional setting.